Okay, it is time to read Timmy, Johnny, and Spike Revisited. A lot of players have their goal is literally this one. This is so many players. So many players say they want to win. And I'm like, hey, why are you playing that deck then? And then they don't have an answer. And really, their goal is not winning. They have an alternate goal. They want to play something, they want to prove something else, that this other deck can still win or build a deck that people aren't playing. And this is where the no meta hate in my chat rule comes from, because people just hate the meta because it's what is the best thing. Like if you're trying to look for something else the best and you're testing it, that is very different than playing something else other than the best. Just play stun. So there is an argument to playing a lower skill deck or another deck that you know well, because you won't be able to pilot what you believe the actual best deck is as good. But I think that you have enough. If in general you should be striving to learn those decks if you claim you want to win. Hello, Novari. We are reading Timmy, Johnny, and Spike Revisited. So I'm going to read this. This is going to go on YouTube. And after, this is long. This is long. So after every little bit, I will come back in. So you get a bedtime story. And by bedtime, I mean 2:30 p.m. story. Okay. So let's get started. Timmy, Johnny, and Spike Revisited. This is by Mark Rosewater, who is one of the creative designers on Magic the Gathering. He is a smart fella that knows a lot. Okay. So let's start with the obvious. What or who are Timmy, Johnny, and Spike? To answer this question, let me begin by flashing back 10 years. When I was hired into R&D, I was a bit of an oddity. The way I put it back then, I was one of the R&D guys that studied words in college. Everyone else majored in something that involved a lot of numbers, be it mathematics, engineering, or a number of different sciences. I, on the other hand, had majored in communications. I was a writer. This meant that I approached card design in the same way I approached writing a story. After all, to me, they were both forms of creative expression, so this begs the question of how I function as a writer. I write from the heart. I write to create an emotional response in my readers. This is the same way I design magic cards. Here's where it gets interesting. In order to create an emotional response, I had to understand what emotions I was trying to evoke. In short, I had to ask a number of questions. What does a magic player want when they play magic? What are their reasons for playing? What makes them happy? This is where my communication background helped me out. You see, when you attend a communication school, they make you sample classes in all the different aspects of communication. Now, I majored in broadcast and film. Yes, I managed to pick a major where watching television and movies were actually homework. But I was also forced to dip my toe into the school's two other sections, journalism and advertising/public relations. In one of my advertising classes, I stumbled onto a neat little tool called a psychographic profile. The idea of a psychographic profile is that by isolating different personality traits and behaviors, you can understand what motivates a particular type of person to act in a certain way. In advertising, psychographic profiles are used to understand what motivates people to buy a particular item versus another. But the field of psychographics has advanced over the years and is now used to help in all sorts of fields. Why not game design? The play's the thing. Timmy, Johnny, and Spike are psychographic profiles for Magic players. That's what the test was all about. It lets you know which profile, including all the various hybrids, you fall into. So what makes the psychographic profile so valuable to a Magic designer or developer? The simplest answer is that our job is to make you happy. If we know what makes you happy, our job gets a lot easier. It took me many years to piece these three psychographic profiles together, and many years after that to really understand how each worked. I should point out that this is an ongoing learning experience, which is one of the reasons, by the way, that this column is so much more advanced than the one 4 years ago. I had a lot of help from the rest of the R&D fine-tuning the details, both in how to interpret what each profile liked, then how figuring and then figuring out how to make cards that satisfied that group's desires. One of the biggest stumbling blocks is that each group had a clear stereotype that pulled focus. That is, when we talked about the psychographic profiles, we had a tendency to err in talking about one particular subset at the expense of the rest of the profile. That, I feel, is what I did in my first article on this topic. I oversimplified to the point where I reduced each profile to a stereotype. This has caused a number of inaccuracies and misunderstandings. One might even call them myths about each profile. Today, I'd like to set the record straight by doing a better job clarifying each profile. As with the last time, let's begin with Timmy. Okay, Mitsurugi, I don't know if it's still tier 0. I don't think anything is tier 0 in TCG, and I don't pay any attention to TCG, so I can't tell you. And this article itself is from 2013, so it's been 12 years since this article was first posted. Timmy, the first question I always ask of a profile is, what does this profile want when they play Magic? Timmy wants to experience something. Timmy plays Magic because he enjoys the feeling he gets when he plays. What that feeling is will vary from Timmy to Timmy, but what all Timmys have in common is that they enjoy the visceral experience of playing. As you will see, Johnny and Spike have a destination in mind when they play. Timmy is in it for the journey. One of the great myths about Timmy is that he is young and inexperienced. I think this comes from the fact that a non-Timmy, particularly a Spike, looking at a Timmy play, reads his choices as those of inexperience. Why else would he play overcosted fatties, or coin flipping cards, or cards that simply put aren't that good? Because Spike misses the point. Timmy plays with cards that make him happy, cards that create cool moments, cards that make him laugh, cards that allow him to hang out with his friends, cards that cause him to have fun. Winning and losing isn't even really the point. Although winning is fun, Timmy gets that. For Timmy, the entire reason to play is having a good time. But fun varies greatly from player to player. This is why for each of the profiles, we like to examine many of the subgroups that make up their profile. These subgroups are not an exhaustive list, but rather a touch upon a few of the larger subgroups. So Timmy's most often, a lot of the anime players, people that want to play an anime deck, are some sort of Timmy. They want to experience the game as their favorite anime character. Power gamers. One of the stereotypes of Timmy is that he, or she, for the rest of this column, just add or she, loves playing big creatures and big spells as he smashes his way to victory. My last column on Timmy really enforced this image. This isn't true for all Timmys, but it is true for this group. The power gamer equates power with fun. He enjoys the vicarious thrill of dominating the game. For power gamer Timmy, Magic is about seeing how much he can do. How big a creature can he play? How much damage can he do in a single turn? How much can he win by? The important thing to understand is that the power gamer, while a subset of Timmy, is not the entirety of Timmy. As you will see in a moment, there are many other ways to enjoy the game of Magic. Social gamers. These are the Timmys that thrive on the social aspect of the game. To them, it's all about interacting with their friends. They see Magic as a means to spend a fun Saturday night. This is the group that is much more partial to multiplayer variants, as they want to involve the entire playgroup in a single game. Although I should point out some social gamers like pairing off and playing traditional two-person Magic. Social gamer Timmy makes his card and deck choices to maximize fun interactions. Of all the Timmys, Social gamer Timmy is the most likely to issue house rules and self-ban cards. Why? Because if the point is to have a good time with one another, why let irksome cards get in the way? Diversity gamers. This third subgroup finds it very fun in the variety inherent in the game. Due to its modular design and fanatical following, Magic has had many different deck types and formats. Diversity gamer Timmy wants to experience it all. For him, the fun is in this constant exploration. Each time he plays, he wants to try something different than what he did before. Yes, he occasionally returns to things he's done before, but only as a breather before he leaps once again into the great unknown. This is the group of Timmys most likely to try cards that no one else is playing. Not to prove that they can be like the Johnnies, but because they are honestly interested to see if the card might be fun. The same goes for deck types and formats. Every color, every archetype, every way to play is all fair game. Adrenaline gamers. This final subgroup embraces the joy of variance in the game. They enjoy playing cards and decks that don't have a predictable outcome. To them, the fun of the game is to see all the different kinds of things that could happen. This is the group, for example, that loves the things like coin flip cards and cards that work differently each time you play them. Adrenaline gamer Timmy likes flying by the seat of his pants. He enjoys the rush of adapting to the unpredictable. As a result, Adrenaline gamer Timmy is drawn to decks and formats that allow every game to be as different from the last as possible. Let me end my section on Timmy by stressing that of the three profiles, I believe that Timmy has gotten the worst rap. Timmy isn't an idiot. Timmy just chooses his cards for his own purposes. It's not the reason Johnny and Spike choose their cards, but then that's the entire point of psychographic profiles, to explain how different players are motivated by different criteria. I hope after this article, a lot of readers will realize that they themselves are Timmys. Don't shy away from this news. Embrace it. Be proud of your Timmydom. After all, to quote / paraphrase a semi-popular 80s tune, Timmys just want to have fun. Do we have any Timmy questions before we talk about Johnny? Timmy was an average kid that nobody understands. Are the favorite pet deck players Timmys? It depends. It depends. It literally depends on why they're playing that deck. They're 100% not a Spike. They're a Timmy or a Johnny. They're most of the time a Timmy, though, because Johnny, as we'll see, is about getting to a destination of doing it in a unique way. Johnny wants to express something. So most of the time, pet deck gamers are Timmys in one way or another because they like the experience of that deck. So playing your pet deck, even if it's to relive, so like if you're, so like playing, if I were to play Tier Elements now, because I really, really liked how Tier Elements played when it was the best deck, even though it's not the best choice, I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm trying to recapture that experience I had. So that is a Timmy reasoning for playing the pet deck. I think that many, many Yu-Gi-Oh players are Timmys and don't realize it, that they're looking for an experience. And a lot of them are looking for a more role-play type experience where they're trying to play an anime deck or anime cards or cards from their favorite character or some other theme. And that is a Timmy experience. Your BE deck is your pet deck because I love playing it. Not to win, to have fun, but because it reminded me of my brother. What's BE? You're making Malice, you're not a Timmy. Malice doesn't mean... So playing a meta deck doesn't mean you're not a Timmy. Your reasoning for playing that deck makes you... Oh, Blue Eyes. Nice. Yeah, so if you're playing... So Blue Eyes is a good example. If you're playing Blue Eyes because it's the best deck, that's a Spike reasoning. If you are playing Blue Eyes because some experience about it, you love summoning the Blue Eyes, you like the animation, that's a Timmy reasoning. It's for the experience. Blue Eyes was my brother's favorite deck, except that he won't be able to see use his favorite card now. This sounds like a sad passing story that we're going to have to save for another day. Very, very touching, though, and I'm glad that you're able to continue that. I do want to hear about it sometime, but right now is not the time for it. Okay. Johnny. And anytime they say magic, anytime Mark Rosewater says magic, the same, you just replace it for Yu-Gi-Oh! Or any other game. Johnny. So why does Johnny play magic? Because Johnny wants to express something. To Johnny, magic is an opportunity to show the world something about himself, be it how creative he is, or how clever he is, or how offbeat he is. As such, Johnny's very focused on the customizability of the game. Deck building isn't an aspect of the game to Johnny, it's the aspect. One of the strengths of Magic is the ability for players to imbue much of themselves in their decks. When you play Monopoly, you don't get emotionally attached to the board, but with Magic, your deck becomes an extension of yourself. When your deck wins, you win. When your deck gets complimented, you get complimented. It's this principle that drives Johnny's. As with Timmy, Johnny has numerous subgroups. The difference, though, has to do with the focus. Timmy's subgroups form around the issue of how to make the game fun. For the Johnny subgroups, it's about how one can express themselves. Combo players. Just as the Power Gamer subgroup defines the Timmy stereotype, so does the combo player subgroup define the Johnny stereotype. The combo player is fascinated by the interaction of the cards. His quest is to find combinations that no one else has. He wants to build a deck that will impress all who see it. Because of this desire, the combo player is drawn to cards that have a sense of potential. In particular, he likes cards that he can build a deck around. How the combo player varies from the other subgroups is that he is very focused on the modular aspect of the game. He wants to find the connections between the cards. This means most of the focus is on the individual cards themselves. Offbeat designers. The offbeat designer also comes up with strange decks, but he starts from a very different vantage point. Instead of being driven by the cards, he's driven by ideas. What if the deck had only lands? What if the deck never played permanents? What if the deck stole every card played by the opponent? The difference between the combo player and the offbeat designer is a subtle but important one. The combo player is proving that he can master the system by finding gems in the midst of chaos. The offbeat designer is proving his ability to find answers for any challenge. The former is an explorer, the latter an inventor. Deck artists. The deck artist also builds decks, but in a very different vein. The deck artist isn't trying to find anything or demonstrate anything. The deck artist is trying to use deck building as a form of self-expressive art. These are decks that do things like embody the elf culture, or represent the Empire Strikes Back, or play in a way that makes the opponent appreciate the uniqueness of the card choices. The combo player and offbeat designer are showing off what they're doing. The deck artist shows off how they are doing it. So here, Mark Rosewater says that anime players fall here. I don't completely agree, but that's fine. You can also fall into multiple categories. Yes, everyone is aspects of all of these at all times. It's what is your primary motivation. So you can be, so if you want to play Malice because you like the combo play pattern and how the cards move and interact, and that's fun for you to do the combo, but it's also very good and the best deck, so you choose to play it because it's the best deck and it's fun, you have two reasonings there. And they are not the same as each other. Uber Johnnies. The Uber Johnnies build their decks based on sheer stubbornness. They are out to prove what conventional wisdom says can't be done, can be done. To them, no card is too bad to find a use for. No deck archetype is too unworkable. Nothing is truly off limits. These are the people playing Appliancer. The Uber Johnnies thrive on doing the undoable. They live to demonstrate that they were the one to succeed where all others had failed. Yes, this is the group that makes R&D designers like think one with nothing, which is this card, which is a card that has the text, discard your hand. That's the only, imagine it's a quick play spell, discard your hand. No other effect. And if that gets your brain turning, if you start thinking, oh, I could put that in Tearlament, I could put that in Dark World, it is objectively a bad card that you are turning into upside in some way. And that is a Johnny thought process of what you're doing there. Before I wrap up with Johnny, I feel obliged to point out that Johnnies aren't restricted to deck building. Be it choice of format, choice of playstyle, or even choice of tokens, Johnny can use many different means to express himself. The common bond to all Johnnies is that they are on a mission to show the world something about themselves. What they're showing varies tremendously, but at the core of each Johnny is a similar motivation. Look at me, world. Look at me. Spike. So why does Spike play? Okay, before we go on to Spike, do you have Johnny questions? So I think the anime role players that want to play a Blue Eyes deck because they want to be Kaiba, they want to play the Yusei Synchron deck. I feel like that is mostly a Timmy thing. Mark Rosewater says it's a Johnny thing. But I feel like they're doing it to experience the role play in one form or another. Not that they think like so like building a deck to be a something. So like if your whole deck tells a story, so like when they did the like MBT's Pinocchio video or whatever, the deck that played through the story of Pinocchio, a Johnny created that deck. If you're playing a Blue Eyes deck because you want to summon Blue Eyes and chant Blue Eyes chant or whatever and shout White Lightning, Timmy experience. Both of those are still fine experiences, and I'm glad the game has room for both of them. Okay, Spike. I am mostly a Spike, and I have a very, very hard time shifting my lens. So one thing about the Uber Johnny, I feel like a Spike player can have a similar thought process for different reasons. No, I don't agree. Um, all right, we need to ban this guy. Likely ban evader restricted. Ban. So Spike is playing to prove how good he is. If okay, so there can be a Spike motivation for playing a worse deck, but there's two ways to do it. So if I'm playing, so in 2012 or whatever, I forget who it was, Nizar Sarhan or whatever, was playing Six Samurai, and he got grumpy against, or somebody got grumpy against him, and Nizar said, I can beat you with Six Samurai without Gateway in my deck at all. I'll take Gateway out of my deck, we'll duel, and I'll beat you. I think he won that match, I don't remember. But his motivation for doing that, for taking Gateway out of his Six Samurai deck, and then playing against Dino Rabbit, was to prove that he is a stronger duelist, not that Six Samurai is stronger than Dino Rabbit. That he himself is a stronger duelist. So he has specifically handicapped himself. So he has made his deck worse on purpose to prove that he is a stronger player. A Johnny, so that was a Spike motivation for doing that. A Johnny doing the same thing would want to show the world that Six Samurai are very strong, and the deck is strong even without this other card. This is what, now I forget his name. The player that, not high five this guy. I don't think anybody remembers this guy. Nobody here, if Sundry was here, he could remember. This other guy that kept coming around and saying, like, people banned him from locals from playing whatever decks. Where he wants to show, like, you don't need whatever cards. Like, you don't need staples and hand traps. Your deck, you can build a good deck without them. This is a Johnny motivation about deck building. So it's about, if it's about player skill or how good the cards are, changes who is speaking, basically. Okay, on to Spike. Spike. So why does Spike play? Spike plays to prove something, primarily to prove how good he is. You see, Spike sees the game as a mental challenge by which he can define and demonstrate his abilities. Spike gets his greatest joy from winning because his motivation is using the game to show what he is capable of. Anything less than success is failure, because that is the yardstick he is judging himself against. Like Timmy and Johnny, Spike has his own subgroups. What separates these subgroups is how Spike has chosen to try and dominate. And different Spikes focus on different aspects of the game. Innovators. This group is the closest thing Spike has to Johnny's sensibilities. Although I should point out the Innovator Spike wants to win first and foremost. He doesn't feel any need to be novel or unnecessarily different. Innovator Spike prides himself on his ability to judge new cards. His goal is to find the next broken thing. Innovator Spike's dream is to spawn the next dominant deck. He wants to break the game, and like Johnny, he wants credit. Because Innovator Spike is so focused on breaking new cards, he spends a great deal of time understanding the nuances of the mechanics. If something broke once, odds are greater that R&D will misjudge the same thing in the future. Because this group wants to understand how the game ticks, they're the ones most likely to be interested in Magic game theory. They want to understand things like card advantage and card utility because this is intimate knowledge that's going to reward them later on. You don't see eye to eye with this article? What do you mean it's too speculative? I feel like this is dead on the head. Like it is absolutely nailed it. So what part of it, or how do you feel is too speculative? So what you're thinking of are Spikes who are innovating because they see things that others haven't seen. So yes, so the recent example of Millennium going into Snake Eyes is Spikes, is Innovator Spikes trying new things is this better? And an actual spike will drop the Millennium stuff as soon as it's not good. It's hitting dead on for a lot of specific anecdotes, but is a little too specific in your opinion. Okay, well, the thing is, I feel like it's extremely broad. I'm reading this article specifically because when I do viewer duels, I don't have fun, and I think my viewers don't have fun when our goals are not lining up. So if somebody comes into my chat and wants to duel me, and I say, okay, and they're playing a Jack Atlas themed deck, and they summon Red Nova Dragon and pass. And then I summon Fiendsmith Graver, send Red Nova Dragon to the graveyard, summon a 50-100 attack Desiree, and then banish his dragons from the graveyard with Bystials. Like, neither of us had a good time there, because, like, I'm coming at it from a Spike perspective, and I didn't have a strong opponent to fight against. He just summoned Red Nova Dragon, and that's it. And he didn't have a good time because I just got rid of his Red Nova Dragon and then killed him. I generally build from a list. I'm definitely not innovative in that sense. Me too. I'm not very innovative. Hello, Johnson. We're just talking about you. And by you, I mean the different psychographics. I will cut this and put it on the red deck as bad manners in general. How do you mean bad manners? Because I think that this is it's a Timmy thing. So Timmy and Spike don't often get along because Timmy wants to summon Red Nova Dragon and Spike wants to win. So then Spike is going to destroy Timmy most of the time. It's one of those decks that you can negate so much and it still plays fine. I don't think so. I think there's a reason it is untiered on Untapped and Master Duel meta. Nobody is playing this deck. There's a Magic player. There's a Magic format with 4 players or something where everyone's meant to play a deck with similar power levels. Some people have bad time if people have different goals. Yes. Yes, this is Commander. And people have a bad time when their deck's power levels or the cards they're putting in it are very different. So I don't know how to find a So where is he? What deck are you playing? Embrace the Cat. Can I sort? Can I? Hold on. Timna? Okay, I was almost there. You're playing Melodious. Okay, so why are you playing Melodious? You can join the viewer duels, but we are reading this article right now, and we're almost done with it. And then I'll open up the queue. More or less because you're fearful of a lot of the overpowering targeting cards. So what about something like Desiree, that doesn't target. Like, it just negates things on the field. Desiree is extremely common and popular right now. Desiree doesn't come up for me because my deck has a big board wipe. And what do you do about something like Fiendsmith that can just play through the things anyways? Schubert to Fiendsmith is not an issue for my deck. Okay. Is Schubert the one that bounces? The one that banishes 3 things from the graveyard. It's the Triple Crow. Okay. I see. So this sounds like an innovator spike. You have identified Fiendsmith as a large part of the meta and a problem, and other targeting effects such as Drill Beam, and have decided you're going to play cards that counter these. Every song Weird Al parodied is AI generated. I'm not sure that that's true. Okay, so Sam mentioned Commander. Commander is a 4-player format, and this is a competitive Commander list where you're trying to win as quick and often as you can, and it plays cards. We're not even done with the article yet. Don't worry, Johnson. This plays cards like Fierce Guardianship. If you control a commander, you can cast the spell without paying its mana cost. Counter target non-creature spell. So you can... Is Al generated? Oh, I see. I see. Yes, that is true. That is true. You got me. Fierce Guardianship is a free counterspell. It costs no mana. Flusterstorm is a 1-mana counterspell. Force of Will is another. Force of Negation is another. These are free counterspells. Mental Misstep is another free counterspell. Mindbreak Trap is another free counterspell. Mystical Tutor searches for anything. Rhystic Study makes your opponent's spells cost more, or you draw a bunch of cards. Necroponents trades a bunch of cards for mana. So all of these cards are hyper efficient, and it plays cards like Drannith Magistrate. Your opponent can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hand. So this is basically Necro Valley. And then Grand Abolisher. During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells or activate abilities, blah, 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 whatever. And this is... I don't know. This is King Calamity for your turn forever. On your turn, King Calamity, your opponent can't do anything. And so a lot of these cards people find unfun. So if you put them in just in your deck and then you sit down to play a game and you play Necro Valley, people are going to be mad because they want to have an experience. And that is a problem of Commander. Melodious is a very swarm-heavy deck that wins on turn 2 to 3 when not heavily interrupted. I think that's most decks, though. Like, most decks, if you're... Like, that is the bar to clear. Like, if your deck can't win on turn 2 or 3, like, that's a problem. The thing is that you set up a whole bunch of, like, you can't interact with my things, and then you use things like Schuberta to banish the graveyard, and the, I forget its name, the one that bounces everything. Like, you banish your own Melodious and bounce all their things. So you think this Resonator deck beats Melodious? I would think that it doesn't come close. I would put Melodious at a much higher power level than this deck. I don't like this deck all that much because the effects are way too simple, but Aria makes up for a lot of its problems. I literally don't know which one Aria is. Melodious cannot be targeted or destroyed by battle. Yes. Yes, this one, and then the other one that makes them not able to be destroyed by effects are annoying to deal with. Okay, let's finish the article because we're on tuners, and then we're going to skip a lot of this. Okay. Hate this and you win. Yes, kind of. But you can't target it, so it's very, very difficult. And it doesn't activate, so you can't negate it with an effect that negates activations. Okay, let's finish the article. Tuners. This next subgroup of Spike doesn't try to innovate. They leave that up to the innovators. This subgroup is the next in line. Once decks are produced and played, this group tries to dominate by fine-tuning the known decks, known as min-maxers in the role-playing side of gaming. This is the group that tries to squeeze every ounce of advantage they can out of the resources at hand. Tuner Spike uses his expertise to understand the things that help optimize decks such as mana ratios, card numbers, and sideboard technology. Innovator Spike has surprise on his side. Tuner Spike has to win his games by being more efficient than those he plays against. This is where I sit almost all of the time. Analysts. The next subgroup also sits and collects information, but aiming for a different type of advantage. Analyst Spike focuses on the metagame. He plans on winning not by having the best deck in a vacuum, but by having the best deck suited for any particular environment. Analyst Spike understands that all decks have a weakness. If you can understand what will be played, you can figure out how to beat it. Analyst Spike also tinkers with his decks, but more so to prime it for the field he expects. In addition, Analyst Spike, at least the tournament version, and yes, there are spikes outside of the tournament environment, is very focused on the sideboard. With only 15 slots, proper sideboarding relies heavily on understanding the threats one should expect to face. Nuts and Bolts. The last subgroup has moved beyond deck lists and metagames. Nuts and Bolts Spike focuses his energies in perfecting his own gameplay. He believes that the ultimate key to victory is flawless play. As such, Nuts and Bolts Spike spends his energy looking within. He tries to understand his own internal flaws and works to improve them. Because of this focus, Nuts and Bolts Spike tend to spend more time on his limited formats, as it allows the most opportunities to improve his general skills. Some Nuts and Bolts Spikes do focus on constructed, but is the minority of the subgroup. The most important thing to understand about spikes is this. To them, magic is a means to test themselves. As such, their enjoyment comes from marking their own progress. While that often means winning, there are spikes who measure their success in other ways. For example, some spikes measure themselves not against winning or losing, but by how perfect their play was. The last thing I want to stress before I move on is that spikes are neither limited to organized play nor necessarily good. There are spikes who play casually. There are spikes who are downright horrible. Being a spike is measured by why you play, not where or how well you play. And the inverse is true for Timmy. What do I think about Voiceless Voice and Generator? In what way? Generator is something that has never been good enough to like actually read the cards. I know their field spell summons a guy from the deck when your opponent draws a card. And Voiceless Voice I find frustrating to play against because that is a deck that I feel like can continue doing its things forever. Like it can just play through endless disruption. And I feel like its recovery is at an unfair level. But I don't think it is actually that awesome right now. I thought Voiceless Voice was on here. Oh, Voiceless is less than 1%, 55% win rate from Diamond to Master. That's where it stands right now. So Voiceless Voice is quite good. It's very unpopular right now, though. Okay, so that was the article. And the point here is that people are coming to the game for different reasons. So, what do you think about voiceless voice and generator is a loaded question because from what lens am I taking it? Because my lens is always going to be Spike. So in the competitive game, if I pick up either of these decks, is it giving me the best chance to win? Generator, I don't think so. I've seen it played very, very few times. It's not popular. I feel like it's safe to ignore. Voiceless Voice, I think, is very good, but I'm not ignoring it. I know how to play against it, but I'm ignoring it as a choice for myself because it's so many UR. Plus, there's a bunch more UR in the deck than just these four. Like 4 UR doesn't seem like a lot, but then it's Swarvis and a whole bunch of other things. I'm not criticizing your question. I think this is a very, very normal question, but the lens you're going to get. So if you ask me, what do I think about Red Eyes? I'm going to say it's garbage. I don't ever want to play Red Eyes. But if you ask me, would it be fun to play a Bestial Full Metal Red Eyes deck? Possibly. It could be a fun experience. You like hearing about people's sentiment on a deck because I like using that to decide what to build. So what are you... This sounds, on the Timmy side, you want a good experience. You want a fun time. And Rutimal, self-diagnosing my playstyle is harder than I thought. It is. So it is not... So I think that this is why Embrace the Cat says it's overly specific, because it takes a broader point of view to be able to put yourself in a camp. I am very, very clearly and obviously in the various Spike camps. Not so much Innovator. Like, but the other three, yes. And if you watch my streams, you will see that I will go into a play. So it's like, I did this for this reason, and I don't think that was a mistake. And then they will have the out to that card, and then I think about it, and it's like, oh no, I still think that was the correct play, even though they had the out this one time. Like, that sucks. That is very, very nuts and bolts. Next, like, if I had a secondary, it would be Timmy, because I want fun gameplay. So I like random cards. I like cards that do big fun effects. So I think Simultaneous Equation Cannon is a very fun card. I think this article laser in a bit too closely on the niche camps and less so on the general deck building principles. So hello, Muzan Jackson. How am I doing? I'm doing good. We're reading a Magic article, and we're going to do viewer duels in just a moment. So it's not so much about deck building. It's why you play. So deck selection is part of playing, but why are you selecting your deck? What kind of deck is that? This is Labyrinth. This is a... Have you never seen Labyrinth before? It's here because I think Simultaneous Equation Cannon is an extremely fun card, and it banishes all of your opponent's cards. That's what's fun about it for me. That is a fun experience. It is also very good. So I'm happy playing it because it is a very good card, and it is a very fun effect for me. I watched a video someone posted when Labyrinth first came out. It's hilarious how negative people treated it. I thought it wasn't real, but simultaneous equation canon is very real, and I'm glad for it. So how could it focus more on deck building? So, like, let's just put it in a Yu-Gi-Oh term. Why? So you pick a deck. I've been playing. So I was playing Mermail because I find it very, very fun. I think that this play pattern is fun. I love to take my opponent's cards out of their hand. I love to see their hand. And I love being able to play through disruption. That's why I was playing Mermail, and it was good. When it wasn't good enough anymore, I'm very happy to put the deck down. Because the spike mentality is overriding my Timmy sensibilities. And then I switched to this deck. Just Fiendsmith Bestial. And then I'm able to nuts and bolts grind with what I believe is a better deck. I picked IDS after Googling a decent performing cheap deck that I didn't need to farm for. Like a Timmy at the beginning. No. That's still a spike mentality. So you are constrained by budget. So if Crush Card Virus is $2,000 and you cannot make that a priority, your next priority is winning without Crush Card Virus. You still want to win as much as possible, but this is unattainable. So the budget deck, you can still be a budget spike player. Being a budget spike player doesn't negate being a spike. And then I proceeded to never switch decks, squeezing a bit of performance and rank I could out of it. So, yes, it depends on why you continued to play Invoke Dogmatica Shaddoll. It could be a nuts and bolts spike wanting to perfect your gameplay, getting as good as you can be at the game. If you want to prove that the deck is good, if you're trying to prove the deck is good, then that's a Johnny mentality. Money is outside of it, yes. So money is a limiter for everyone. I don't have Primate cards on this account, and that's literally a money thing. Like, I have not decided that spending the money on the gems to get the Primate cards is worth the boost in power.